What's up, people? What's good? Hope everyone's having a good night. It's for the grinders. It's for people who are hungry. Let me just get started. I know we got a few people rolling in a little late, but yeah. Today we're gonna talk about the price of your jersey, self-worth, pricing. I know a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people ask me, what should I charge? When should I quit my job, or when should I do X, Y, and Z? So I'm gonna cover all those things. See, we got Jarrell, got DJ, okay. Got a few people, unless some other people roll in, and we'll get started. How's everybody doing tonight? Hope everyone's good. So today, I'm gonna talk about the price of your jersey. What really struck me to talk about pricing, and I'm somebody who has learned from several different things and experiences of what to charge. My self-worth more than anything. Most importantly is just knowing how much you're worth, and honestly speaking, I can't place a dollar on how much I'm worth, but I can tell you that I'm not worth, I consider myself worth more than anything in this world, but at the end of the day, we gotta be realistic, right? So I see too many people, just going to work for anything, especially millennials. This is something that really, really just drives me nuts, is that many of us just go out and we take anything and everything that we can get, and that's just pitiful. It's and I get it, gotta get a job, we gotta eat, every excuse you could think of. And entrepreneurs, taking any and everything, I'm talking about way below value. I'm gonna ask you a really quick question. I promise this won't take too much of your time. Either will take much, craziness to understand. I'm really gonna just break it down. When you go to a seafood restaurant, I'm not that greedy, I promise. And you buy lobster, right? They have below market, at market, and above, right? Probably for the above market, you're gonna pay a little bit more because of the quality. But you never see anything way below the market. You never go too below, but I'm seeing way too many people going all the way to the floor. I see people accepting jobs that, you go to college, people coming out with I'm gonna give you a real scenario because I don't like to talk hypothetically. I'm gonna tell you right now straight up and keep it just, straightforward. When I started working, and I went to school, a great college. I went to Central Connecticut State University, and I was in a very competitive program. Let me not babble on, but long story short, I graduated with with a very, very minimal amount of debt. I was very fortunate to the aid that was provided, but I didn't come from too much. And I went to this job, right? I worked in one of the biggest corporations in my industry as an accountant. When I was an accountant, I still am an accountant, but more leaning towards business strategizing, helping people start businesses. And so I've seen a lot. I used to be an auditor, and I would walk through several different businesses, like I was just saying. And what happened was, I kid you not, I met people with over $400,000 debt. They were getting paid the same as me, and I spent less, maybe a fraction of that, and it's just crazy because now they become debt slaves. But then I also let me put it on the entrepreneurial side. I then see people who are trainers who have all this experience, and then guess what? They go and they sell way below the market, like the lobster, like what I was telling you. Now I'm gonna ask you one quick question. And maybe you heard this before, maybe you haven't. I like to think of myself as unique. If so, great. But do you see any commercials for Lamborghini? Do you see any commercials for Bentleys? Do you see any discounts on Macs when it's Christmas time? Probably not. I'm sure you don't, because I don't. But you see it for low-end prices. Like, unless that's your strategy where you're trying to offer services to beat out competitors based on price, like a Walmart, you should not be selling below market. You're worth way more than that. And don't get me wrong, you definitely have to add value. You have to prove your worth. And, that takes putting in the grind, and added value. I work with a lot of my mentors are millionaires, and it's not even just like their net worth that attracted me to them, but it's more of like their mindset and how they think. Like the difference I notice between people who are adding value to the market and really just like charging a lot for their time is the people who value their time. Millionaire, if you ever met somebody who is making more, or let me put it like this, the people that you meet that make more money, at a higher level or playing the game at a really high level, I'm sure they value time. But if you meet a broke person, they'll probably give you all their time in the road, They're gonna give you every minute. They're gonna be like, hey man, I got nothing but time. I'm sorry, I don't. And I know you don't either. And I hope you really do value time. Listen, a warrior that plans more in battle before the battle bleeds less during the war. That's what I learned from my mentor, Peter Vuk. And I'm telling you right now, you have to control how you react. First of all, I believe in being proactive versus reactive. You got to control your situations. So if you have something you want to make, you need to set a target and don't come up short from that. First of all, if you want to add value, like I was saying, and then that price is well deserved in what you're offering. Now, don't get me wrong. Let's say that everyone's charging $3,000, right? Or your market, when you enter the market as someone who's graduating out of college or somebody who's competing and has X, Y, and Z number of experience. You don't want to go way, way, way above. Be realistic and earn that price that you're charging. So if you're going in the market, right, and you graduate at the top of your class, you have these internships, or you are an entrepreneur who has worked and had blank experience with blank number of clients, then you nice comment there. I always welcome. Oh, this is Kenan. Yeah, exposed you. But getting back to things, excuse me, let me get some water. Yeah, this is my first video, so bear with me. But getting back to things, you want to evaluate your market. Evaluate who are the people that are playing at a higher game or a higher level than you are, right? Then you want to see what they're offering, how they're doing it, and then you want to take that into consideration, and you really want to create, not based on that, but add more value than what you're giving from that standpoint. Meaning you're beating the market, but you're competing with yourself at the same time. I'll give you a perfect example, a place that I love to go, where I get great energy, and that's the gym. When you go into the gym and you're measuring the weight that you lose, are you competing and asking you, unless you're like a couple and you really want to just motivate and push each other, are you asking that person how much weight they lost and comparing your goal to that? No. You're probably going to compare it to who you were yesterday. Or I wouldn't say yesterday, but the following week, like the week before that. You want to compare, you don't want to measure weight every day, because guess what? There's not going to be high fluctuations between day to day. You want to be patient, you want to be hungry, but you want to take consistent action. Otherwise, it does not continuously happen. You're not going to really gain a high net value by not being consistent and adding value to the market. So before you ask, you want to add value first, then ask. Before you have to ask for a dime, ask for add value. You know, if you're a personal trainer, I know I have one person who's a trainer on here. Okay, Jarrell, I see you. Yeah, so give somebody a free consultation, but don't just do a regular consultation. Give something that somebody who's playing the game at a high level will charge somebody, and give it to them for free. If you're somebody who is entering the market in anything, whether you're working a 9 to 5 or you're becoming an entrepreneur, you know, prove yourself first. Say, hey, I want to give you a demonstration of my skills and what I have to offer. And don't get me wrong, don't just go in, like, this is a totally different, a different topic that I will discuss at a later time. But don't go into the market where you're asking and demanding something where you didn't actually deserve that. Meaning, like, let's say I'm starting as an entrepreneur. I see people like Gary Vee playing at a high level, and I see like mentors and people driving Ferraris or living it up, and then next thing you know, I immediately want to get that. When you go into the gym, if you ever notice somebody who charges, if you go into the gym, right, and you see somebody lifting a high weight, right, and then you're somebody who is just out of shape, you're just starting out, and you're going to try to put that same thing up, you're most likely not going to get it. That person worked towards where they're at. They didn't just go in and try to lift 500 pounds or 300 pounds. They worked their way up. I remember being in the gym, people asking me, like, you know, when I was lifting a lot more weight than what I do now I just try to sustain and just work out, you know, consistently, more for health purposes and just energy, you know, fulfillment than just doing it like where I'm trying to impress somebody. The person I'm trying to impress is the person that is under reflection and screen, myself. And that's who you should be trying to impress. So when I go in there with the expectation of putting forth, competing to where I want to go. So set a target. Listen, you cannot shoot to somewhere, like someone without a target has nothing to aim at. They're not going to go anywhere. You know, if you get in a car and the first thing you need to know is the direction you're going in. You know, a genius without a GPS is always going to get lost, as they say. You know, if you're born broke and you die broke, you know, if you're born broke, as Warren Buffett says, it's not your fault. But if you die broke, then that is your fault because you didn't react well. You didn't take control of what you did. You're in complete control of your decisions. You have to value yourself before you have someone else tell you what you're worth.